Mind Gap Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
I'm Justin.
And we're joined by an old friend, not like age-wise, but it's been many, many years since he's been on this show, like almost 5 years ago. He's a wonderful human. He's very funny, very creative. Please welcome back Matt Baker.
Thank you for that intro.
You're welcome, because you deserve it, sir. Forgot to mention, we do have soundboards, so just be prepared for
cool. Kind of
some
like
morning radio kind of shit, you know?
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, it's the best.
That wasn't a soundboard, though. We have assembled a small group of children to watch the podcast tonight. So,
Yes.
Oh, that's them. That
was live.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, they get on the call with us, and we say, and go, and they go, yay, and then they go to bed. So,
And that's it. That's all we needed them for.
it's all we ever needed.
We're
them
breaking some child labor laws, but I don't care.
for. No, they opt in, and it's totally cool. And, we send them comic books every month. So, and they didn't ask for comic books, but we send them comic books. So,
We're not monsters.
we're not monsters. I mean,
We're not.
If your daughter's looking for a job, we get every Tuesday night at 7 p.m.
Oh, yeah. What? And the rate is one comic book per month.
yes.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I'll ask her. She probably would do it.
I'm sure she would.
I'm sure
totally
she'll
down.
make a cameo at some point. I'm the one at home with her right now, so she's pretty all up on me all the time, which is adorable. But then, like one of my friends calls or something, I'm like going from room to room, hiding in closets just to talk, and she just follows. And so we'll see.
Wow. I wonder what that's like, because my daughter definitely doesn't do that to me. She's like, hey, where's mom? I'm going to go hang out with mom. I'm like, okay.
Your daughter's got to be like 7 or 8
She's
now,
almost
right?
7. She'll be 7 in like 2 weeks. So, yeah. She's, but good thing is that, we have good conversations and we're pretty silly with each other. So we have a good time. I'm in my wheelhouse right now. She can talk and communicate. I'm like, now we can have fun. Like,
She's now
everything before 3, I'm like, I'm here and I'll help, but I don't know what you want from me. Like, I can't really contribute much to this. I mean,
it's fun.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. I was just
go
going to say, one of my good friends, her sister just had a baby, and I'm like, is asking how things were going. Like, oh, how are things going with your sister and her new baby? And she's like, she's great. It's great. She's totally gone insane because she just sends me like 3-minute videos of being like, you having fun in the bath? Are you having fun in the bath? And I was dying laughing, being like, I totally get from your point of view that that's insane, but you kind of have to do that before they can talk. So you like feel anything.
100%.
So
you're trying to connect with them on any level, and the only thing I really, because obviously she had a connection with my wife because breastfeeding and things like that. Like they were just, stuff. And I'm like, hi,
carrying her around for 9 months.
I will lift you up. And I will do silly moves and things like that, but I can't really connect with her on a level. Whereas now she's like, Dad, you're funny. And I'm like, that's all I need to hear the rest of my life. Like, I'm good.
That's
you think
awesome.
I'm funny? That's awesome. And she's like, but when she goes to bed, my wife will tuck her in, and she tells my wife to tell me stuff that she says, and she'll come in and she'll be like, okay, so you are the most handsomest dad that cooks the best food. I'm like, nice. Take it. I'll take it. I'm nailing it.
Matt, how old is your little one?
She turns 3 in May.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, she's 2. She's like, I think like 2 and 7 or 8 months right now.
Nice.
Can't really do math.
That's okay.
Oh, speaking of the devil.
Oh, hey. Just like you called it,
Little hellion.
Here, come say hi.
Come say hi.
Go back and talk to mom.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you? Good. That's so cool. You want to hear a really cool sound?
Oh, it's a whiz popper.
Oh my gosh. What was that?
I am now going to call. These are going to be whiz poppers from now on. I like that name.
Whiz popper.
It's from the BFG. It's not an original, but yeah.
I still like it though.
It's
used.
great.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, a whiz popper.
You say it with a British accent. It sounds so, innocent. Who is Papa's?
Okay, Flibbo, can you go hang out with Mom?
No.
That's so classic. It's all good.
Tell us your thoughts on the Netflix password situation, little one.
Yeah, little one. What do you think about Netflix?
Bro? They're gonna crack down on Netflix sharing passwords to other users, so you can't like get away with murder anymore. What do you think about that?
Poop.
Poop? You know what? I got you.
You share the opinion of a lot of people.
Yeah, right? A lot of people feel the same way. It's okay. I've been there, except I'm usually the other one where I'm like, here, come to me. And they're like, no. She's like, no, I want to stay with Mom. I'm like, okay, I guess.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll just continue as is and she'll get bored.
That's fine. That's all good.
Yeah.
That's totally cool. Well, I'll tell you what. How about we start off with a little bit of housekeeping? This will probably put you to sleep. For all of you that are watching right now, if you're enjoying what you're seeing right now, hit the like button. And if you're listening to this, did you know we live stream live on YouTube on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central Time at youtube.com/mindgappodcast? That's right, we do. You can come hang out with us. You can be like the cool guy Richie, who's staying up late after work. That's us. Yeah.
It's Florence.
Hey, Florence.
Yeah, that's Florence.
Also, if you want to check the description out below, you can find the link to our Discord. You can come hang out with us, join all the cool people, be part of the Mind Gap community. You can check out our link to our merch at redbubble.com. And also, if you're feeling so inclined, you want to throw some money our way, patreon.com/mindgappodcast. All that good stuff is there. And that's the housekeeping. Bing, bang, boom, done.
Doug, I think you're getting better at it because it was actually engaging and not putting people to sleep.
Oh, man.
Very succinct as well.
Damn.
Yeah.
I failed this time. I meant to put people to sleep, but it just didn't happen.
Engaging.
I'm engaged with the moment. But it's all good, because I respect this because I know exactly what this is like, where you're like just living your life. Yeah. And this is the beauty of our world now. Do you by chance work from home at all, Matt, or are you out and about enjoying the world?
Sorry, it's a lot of controversy going on.
No apologies.
What'd you ask?
I said, do you work from home at all?
No, I'm just full time at home with her because, when we moved to Portland, one thing, we were living in LA and it was like crazy competitive for childcare there. But Jesus. At the very end, she got in. But then we moved here. We did this whole we went back east for the summer and then we went to Italy. And then by the time we landed here, there was just 6-12-month wait lists everywhere.
Good Lord.
So then my wife got a job. So then I literally can't work.
Yeah, no, totally get that, man. It's that stuff that is no joke. The wait lists, and it makes you just realize when you have a kid, because I'd worked with people growing up where they're like, I've got to watch my kid. I'm like, how difficult is that? And then you have a kid and you're like, oh my God, someone has to take care of this thing all the time. And apparently it can't be me. Apparently I have to work. And apparently so does my wife. What are we going to do? It's like, how much money do you have? Because if you have enough for a second mortgage, you can afford a daycare. It's like, oh, good. I was so thrilled to get her into public school this year because I'm like, yay!
Oh, that's gotta be great.
There's $1,700 back in our account every month. That's crazy. Yeah, it's wild.
The cost of childcare will never cease to amaze me. Ever.
It's insane.
I mean, I've a lot of friends who are either in it or just past it, like you, and I still cannot wrap my. I've heard dozens of stories about the cost of this, and I cannot wrap my head around it. That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thankful because it was a great daycare. I mean, they took care of her basically from 7:30 until, it could go as late as 6 o'clock at night, and they gave her breakfast, lunch, snack. So, and she learned a lot, had a great experience, but I'm like, God damn, I want to get her out of here. Let's get her to public school. This is a lot. This is so much.
Sorry, 1 sec.
All good, man. We got it. We got this. Good. It's all good.
This is what it is now.
This is life,
Look, you've seen videos of Diplomat on Zoom meetings, and kids are running in the background. It is what it is.
It's life. It's real life. And if we pretend that this isn't real life, we're lying to ourselves.
Yeah.
What's going on out there now? What's the status?
Oh, I think they're gonna try to go for a walk. It does not sound like it's off to the best start.
It's okay.
We'll see.
Hey,
Yeah. She's very, I think it's her age, but also her personality. She's like very, very willful. You literally can't make her do anything. And it's like, I don't know, was your daughter like that, Doug? Like
there were, it's so funny how much your brain just like forgets a lot of that stuff, in those moments you deal with it and move on. I remember she was relatively easygoing for the most part. Obviously there would be moments where nap problems, nap would be skipped or it wouldn't be as long as it could be. And we're like, oh, we're in for some shit. So get ready for the breakdown. But it's funny because all those personalities are different and at different times. You know what I mean? Like some people are like, oh, it's the terrible twos. I'm like, actually, I kind of feel like 4 was really difficult,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. She's very, she's very sweet and she's very engaging, but she's literally like, she has so much energy. She's just on all services all the time, just running around, just wanting to, and then like, I can't even like legitimately, I can't send an email. Like even when I'm watching her, like I could maybe do it on my phone. But like on just sitting down at the computer, she just comes up, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then looks at things like, and then just like, So I today was actually a good day because I let go of the notion of doing anything.
Isn't that amazing? You're like, you know what? Yeah. Today is what it is. That's one of the best things in the world is when you can do that.
Yes. So I woke up and I'm like, I'm not going to do a thing. It was also helpful to have this to look forward to at the end of the day. Because I was like, at the end of the day, I'll have something to do that's fun. And I can request my wife to come home early from work so I can, do this and then have a hot minute to oneself.
That's right.
And but with 2 high quality gentlemen.
Oh my gosh. You have no idea how wrong you are with that.
If necessary, we can go back for you and say that this went for 5 hours. So you just let us know how long this needs to go for.
Yeah.
And we can
It's so true. Like needing that time for yourself, like partly as a parent, you feel guilty because you're like, oh, I have to take care of this child. But at the same time, you're like, I also need to recharge. And I feel,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's like, it's just so important. And my wife and I bounce back and forth between that where it's like, you have her Friday. You need time to recharge. Cool. Tap me in. I'm in. We can double team because we only have one child. So you get any more than that, then it's like you got to do man-to-man coverage. And then it goes to zone coverage after that. And you're like, I hope you can figure it out because, we're outnumbered here,
Yeah. I'm a little scared to be outnumbered. We're talking about a second one now, maybe trying in a couple months or something. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you got to have siblings, I think, but at the same time, it is a scary thought one is just so much work. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I felt the same way. We tried, it didn't work out. And I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with it. I would love for her to have a sibling, but I'm also like, I'm also okay with this. Like I made my peace with it. And I'm like, this is okay. This is fine. And I'm sure once the ball gets rolling, that's all this ever is because you adapt. That's what we do as humans. We adapt to the situation. You're like, cool, I'm in it. We got to do this. And then you start looking back and you're like, holy shit, we did that. We made that work. And you're oh yeah. No, go ahead.
Sorry, I haven't talked to any adults today, so sorry if I'm cutting in at bad times. And,
no problem. No problem.
But I was gonna say I have a saying that I came up with, and I don't know if I stole it from somewhere, but I feel like it's a good saying. And is that like with parenting, like the days are longer than the years. Do you know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
It goes so quickly. And we look at pictures of Florence, even from 6 months ago, where she looks different and like she feels like her vibe is different. But each day it's in of itself is so long.
That is a very true statement.
That's a great statement.
Very true. Because like people always say that you don't know where the time goes. And, I was literally just my phone was like, hey, here's some portraits from this year. I'm like, oh my God, look at you. Like, you're not quite what you are now. You're just like smaller and you don't have glasses yet. And oh my gosh, I forgot all about it. And Jill found this old video of her like watching trains in the downtown area. And she was just like, Mama, look at the train. I'm like, oh my God, look at you. You're just a little nugget. Look at you. It's crazy. No, I totally get that, man. It's a wild journey. So
it is a wild journey. Speaking of which, I'm going to step away real quick, grab an extension cord. I see him at like 20% battery. Don't want it to die.
No problem. We got you. We got you.
Yeah.
No problem.
I do love that phrase that he's got though.
Oh, it's so
longer than the years. That is so apropos. I mean, and I'm sure it applies so much to parenting, but like you can look at a couple different facets in life, and that's so
probably
true.
applies to your work too. You know.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
You can look back and you're like, hey man, these days are long, and you're like, oh my God, it's been 8 years. It's been 8 years. 8 years here.
Done. Yeah.
What have I done? Why am I still here? Brutal stuff.
Okay. Coming up.
Oh my God, look at those tattoos.
Oh yeah,
He's tatted up.
Yeah.
You were ready for Portland before you got there.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't gotten any in Portland yet. I got one in Arizona, most of them 4 in LA, and then one when I was in Italy.
Damn,
Oh,
man.
that's cool.
You're a traveled man. You've been traveling.
What brought you guys to Portland? I gotta ask.
So my wife, her dad lives here. So we were in LA, and it was like so difficult. Like it was like we were there. We moved there literally New Year's Eve, turning 2019.
Okay.
We were there for like 7 months, and then we got pregnant, and then the pandemic hit.
Ugh.
And then Florence was born 2 months after the pandemic started. So she was born May 2020. Jesus. And then it was just like so crazy. I mean, I don't want to monopolize the conversation. It was insane.
Matt, do you think we're going to monopolize the conversation? You're our guest, sir.
And then, so we were doing that for a while, and then it was pretty clear it wasn't sustainable. And LA was like so expensive. And so my wife is a structural engineer, and then I was teaching high school English. So we were like, we have all the tools to stay in the middle class, but not here. Like,
yeah, right.
So we were kind of scouting out, and we were like realizing like we got to be near family. It's just like it's so much helpful with family around, and so we were like trying to figure out where that would be. I grew up in Pennsylvania. My parents live in different places in Pennsylvania, and I'm like not keen to return to PA. It was a good place to grow up, but not necessarily where I want to be now.
Sure.
And then my wife's mom lives in Maine, and Maine is pretty awesome. But we always like whenever we visited Portland and visited her dad, we just like had a great time, and it was like kind of the place I could see, and then subsequently my wife could see like, oh, this is where we could raise a family, but still live in a cool city, hopefully buy a house. Like all of those things feel like there's potential for that. There's obviously, there's still parts that are challenging, but that was our motivation with moving. And so far it's been good.
That's really cool. I love when just the story of people uprooting and going someplace else. Like, but my wife and I did that recently to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I find it fascinating how people end up in different places. So
yeah, totally.
There's always a cool story behind it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Matt, you're a creative dude. Back in the day when you and I met it's funny because
are you still there?
No. Thank you for asking, though. No. I left.
You were the last time we were, and you were like,
well, yeah, that was almost 5 years ago. So,
Yeah.
No, I was there until 2019.
Okay.
And then I went to Grubhub, and now I'm at a different company that I probably just shouldn't name just because, in case I talk shit, it's like, whatever. Okay. It's all good.
Gotcha.
But
I also worked at Grubhub.
What's that?
I worked at Grubhub in 2015.
Shit.
I have some great Grubhub stories as well that are. I just told my wife one the other day. What was your job? I'm sure because you went from SMS assist where you were like climbing the ladder, so I'm sure it was more like a manager role. I was doing data entry.
I was on the training. So I work in the training world. So I was an instructional designer. So I was designing training for folks internally. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, data entry. That's cool. That's nice.
No, it was the worst.
No, it's not.
It was so. Dude. It was great though because it was so bad. Like in hindsight, it's one of those things. It's like. It's like now that I'm not in that, it's so fun to be like that was awful. Like,
yeah, of course. It's like you don't want to. I mean, to me that sounds like it'd be my nightmare kind of job. Can I tell you just a little bit about, okay, so
yes.
All right, I got like catfished for the job, which is hilarious. So it was spring 2015, right? It was like March, and I had to interview. And I got a job at the Chicago Parks Department teaching soccer. And I also was working with a temp agency, and they were like, they told me it was a writer / proofreader. Like that would be my title. So when I was like trying to weigh the options between these two jobs, and I was like, the Parks Department had a higher wage, but it was only part-time. And I was like, it's full-time, it's writing, but it was like minimum wage. It was like $11 an hour at Grubhub. And I was like, all right, I think ultimately I'll probably make more money. Okay, I'll take it because I want to write. Anything that's writing, I want to do. And I get there and I go to the secretary and I'm like, hey, it's my first day. I'm here for like the writer proofreader job. And she was like, do you mean the data entry job? And I was like, no, I mean the writer proofreader job. And then she was like, oh, all the data entry temps are here. And then I was like, just saw like other 22, 23-year-olds just sitting like on like this, I don't know if it, like whatever we call a bench that's like made of cushion and foam or whatever.
Sure.
They're sitting on that, and I'm like, oh crap. And then it's like, so it's kind of like being catfished. They lead us to I'm not even kidding. They lead us to like a dark space, and there's 6 of us, and they put us in this room, and they're telling us like about the Grubhub style guide and the kind of the role, and then they're having us do kind of little tests. And I'm annoyed, and I'm like, but not saying anything, obviously. And I'm just like, all right, I'll do this BS, and I start doing it. And at the end of the day, they fired someone. So they just didn't take this person on. In the morning, there was 5 of us, and they're like, yeah, so and so just wasn't like typing fast enough, and like was making a lot of errors. We just didn't think they were a good fit for this. And then they progressively fired 2 more people, and then So we had like basically a week of typing auditions in a dark room until we got hired on for temporary 6-month contracts at $11 an hour. Isn't that crazy?
That's an insane vetting process for such an remedial. Like, it also sounds like a really, really bad spinoff of Men in Black.
Right.
How they recruited.
Right. Yeah.
Corporate Men in Black.
It was wild. And then I lasted about 6 months, and then I got like a beast of a diner menu that I just got so apathetic towards, and literally just took as long as I could. And then once my 6 months were over, and they also would talk, the executives were all on the floor. Was that still how it was, Doug? Where all the executives were just out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently one of my friends, Katie, who I'm still friends with, who I met there, was like, oh, they were talking about you. And then I was like, oh, what'd they say? And then they're like, oh, they were like, Jay said, like, you took 2 weeks on a diner menu. So you're like, they don't really like you. Like, they just said that publicly. He was like, well, they were talking, we all heard it. So yeah. And then and then like 2 days later, right? At my desk, it's a Friday at like around 2 or 3 p.m. Can't quite remember. I get logged out of everything. like all of a sudden I'm just like a CD drive, just ejected back like to the front screen. And I can't log into anything. So I go up to this woman, Sarah, and I'm like, she's kind of like not quite IT, but kind of the liaison between. And I was like, hey, I got logged out of everything. I can't log back in. I know my password. Like, can you do a little reconnaissance for me? She's like, oh my God, that's so weird. Sure, I can. And then like maybe half an hour later, I feel someone looking at me, and I look up, and she's staring at me, and we make eye contact, and she looks away. And I'm like, she totally knew I was getting like let go. Like, and that's why they did it like 3 hours. Like, they didn't time it so it was that night. It was literally while I was still working there. I couldn't do anything, and I was just sitting there being like, this is really weird. And nobody else, it wasn't happening to anyone else. So I'm like, something's up here. And I got to the train platform, and I got a call from the woman who catfished me in the first place, being like, so Grubhub would like today to be your last day.
Oh my God.
It was
Passive aggressive move, man.
I mean, I don't know. It was so wild. I'm like, it just really makes me laugh that like, I love that I had that experience, but like at the same time, it's like sometimes I'm like, how is this allowed to happen? And like, no one know. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The more that I work and the more that I hear from people, you know, my wife is in HR. And so I hear about all of the nonsense that goes on in her company because she's basically an adult babysitter in her role. And the more that I hear about this stuff, the more I'm like, oh, we're all just a bunch of idiots. Like I assign so much respect out of the gate for someone with like a certain title or a certain role. Cause I'm like, oh, I just assume like they know what they're doing. They don't. Most of the people don't. They really don't. They don't know what they're doing. They may know they think they know what they're doing based on their set of experiences, but then you're like, oh no, that's a terrible idea. Why are you doing like my wife will describe to me what's happening. I'm like, how old is this person? 22. She's like, oh no, they're 56. I'm like, what? This person's going to be retiring in like 9 years and they're doing this? Are you shitting me right now? This is an adult. What? I just lose my mind because I'm like, how is this a thing that's happening? It's just, but it also gives me a little bit of peace because I'm like, oh, well, if they're idiots, then I'm an idiot and we're all the same. Like that kind of brings me peace. I'm like, oh, okay, we're on the same level, kind of, you know?
It's like when you're growing up and you realize your parents don't know everything.
Right.
It's that moment you're like, oh, we're on the same playing field now.
Gotcha.
I got it. Okay,
we're all the same. We're all the same.
I really had that experience at becoming a father, but also becoming a teacher where I was like, when you're a kid, you think everyone has like a peer-reviewed, highly tailored plan for like your happiness and success. But then it's like everyone's winging it and just kind of doing the best they can with the resources they have. And most people's best is bad. Like, you know,
that's so true. That's so true.
You know, I mean, most people aren't set up really in their life to have their best be even good. Like it's not, I'm not saying that people are shitty. I think it's like everyone's so stressed and consumed with X, Y, and Z that it's like very few people I know have the systems in place to fire on all cylinders, you know?
No, that's a good qualifying thing because there's a very small fraction of percentage of people that are intentionally bad. You know what I mean? Like, I think most people are doing the best that they can, but it's
bad.
It's bad. It's still bad. And the worst part is when those people who are bad are rewarded for being bad. They fail upwards, which was SMS in a nutshell, which was these people who were really bad at their job, who were like, you know what? Let's get you to a director position. You're like, I'm sorry, you're giving them more responsibility? What are you doing? Quit it. No, their failures are like, I disagree. I think we should give them more responsibility. It's like, don't do that. Speaking of SMS, I have 2 stories about you from SMS that I want to share.
Okay, is one going to be the Immortal Technique song I told you to listen to?
It is not, unfortunately.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah,
but now I feel guilty.
We talked about that when I was here last time. I would love to hear these 2 stories.
Okay, one of my favorite. I've told this story before on the podcast, but it was the first time I felt old. I don't know if you remember, but at one point when we were in the pit at the business, I had a whole bunch of like magnets on my cubicle, and there was like a bunch of Mario magnets, and you came over and you were like, "Oh, that's so cool," you know. What was did you play Mario like on the N64? I go, nah, I never had an N64. So you go, oh, are those just ironic? You know, you used to have those because they're ironic. I'm like, oh no, I played these on the original Nintendo. And you just sort of stared at me and you're like, oh. And then you just
say ironic in a playful way, or
I couldn't tell. Like, I'm assuming you were being playful, you know, like, oh, so that's just ironic then? You know, I think you're just being like kind of silly. And I was like, oh no, I played them on the original system. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you just walked away and I'm like, I'm old apparently. Like his reference is like, when I was a child, I played on the N64. I was like, I had one of the first invented systems.
I can't tell if I should apologize.
No, absolutely not. I look back on that fondly because that was the first time where I was actually an older guy at work. I was in my early 30s.
Can I guess?
What's that?
I was like, you're like 30. I would peg you like 36.
Oh, wow. You're very kind. I'm about to turn 40.
Well, hell yeah.
Hell yeah, baby. Pew, 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 pew. I
don't perceive you as an old, like then I kind of like, I knew you were older than me, but you were like, in my head, I was like, this is like, I'm like a freshman at this company and this is like a senior. Yeah. Not like this is like a person who's like, you know, not like an old student teacher or something.
Yeah. Seth goes, you don't look a day over 45. Thanks, Seth. Much appreciated. You bastard. No, that was a great moment because I was like, oh, this is the beginning of this phase where I'm like, hey, and that continued on where at some point, you know, I had a team of people that were reporting to me and I was like making references to Jaws and Star Wars. And there was a girl on my team that goes, I've never seen those. And I'm like, huh? What? You don't know Jaws? How do you not know Jaws? Like, I don't know. And she's like, I haven't seen Star Wars. I'm like, okay, but you are familiar with Star Wars, right? Like you don't have to know it inside out. She goes, I don't know. I'm like, what? I just realized, like, oh, we're only going to be like 65% compatible as teammates because all I'm going to do is make references that you don't get. We'll never really be able to connect entirely. Like, I like you. I think you're friendly, but it's like, sorry, it's not gonna work. Now, the other story I have, one of my fondest memories, I actually told this to Justin in our production meeting last night, is the day you left SMS. You sent an email.
Oh, with all the puns. Do you have it?
God, this is amazing.
You sent an email to our entire department of like people, like it just like making puns with their names. Yeah. And it was like amazing. And what I don't know if you realize this or not, but you accidentally tagged a member of the board.
I think I did. I think I heard that later, but I didn't care because I was.
Oh, I know, because you weren't there. Because I think it was
it Justin? Because
I think it was Johnny Barrett. And I think.
Oh no, Johnny! That guy was improviser.
Yeah.
But he wasn't on the board. He was like in the same.
But I think there was a John Barrett who was on the board. So exactly you meant to do Johnny, but instead you did this guy. And everyone's like, "Oh my god, Matt emailed."
The only one that was questionable. I mean, they're probably all questionable. But the one that I remember, there was a guy, Justin like Jurgens, right?
Yeah, Justin Bergen.
And I said, I think I said, like, who here likes, like, which manager likes to masturbate with lotion? Justin Jurgens.
Yes, it was something along those lines. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Moon is in the chat right now. She's like, Doug the pug, Justin is lusting. I'm trying to make some puns. You're doing great, Moon. Keep it up.
Oh my god,
so funny.
Oh, I wish I had that. I wish. I remember sending it.
I think I held on to it for a really long time because it was very nostalgic to me. I'm like, I remember when Matt left here. He left in a. I have to say, a blaze of glory makes it seem like you were like, I'm going to burn this bitch to the ground. But you're just like, hey, silliness. And that's how I finally remember you as like a fun, silly guy.
Thank you. Oh, can I then throw one more SMS thing that I heard?
Of course.
Okay, so so Doug and I worked together at this company called SMS Assist, and basically it was the most random company you could imagine. And it's basically the business model is let's get blue collar workers onto this app so we can hedge them against each other and make a bigger margin for literally cleaning parking lots of Family Dollar. Like that's really the business model. And I had so many weird interactions on the phone, and like our job was like, I was an operations manager or whatever. So I'd call these people and be like, hey, like so-and-so, did you do this invoice? And I would try to walk them through it. And I could tell that we were like making people who had wanted nothing to do with like this new digital world, like who had every right to just want to clean a Family Dollar parking lot without like joining an app and getting paid, all this stuff. So then, anyway, so I quit. I send this pun laden email, but I had a meeting with HR and they like an exit interview. Do you remember Troy?
Of course.
Yeah. So I saw him years later, and I was at like a bar with some friends, and he came up to me and was like, I think about what you said all the time in that exit interview. And I was like, what did I say? Like, I was worried. He was like, you said you didn't think what we were doing was ethical, so you didn't want to be a part of it. And in my head, I totally said that because I did what else? Like, I already quit. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't think it was quite ethical. But that really wasn't why I was leaving, because I was bored and I was like, this sucks and I'll figure it out. But I was like, I think I just kind of like to play the high ground. I was like, I think this just isn't ethical. But he like held on to that for years, and like basically was like, yeah, like I respected the hell out of you. Or like, you don't want to be a part of something that's not ethical, and you bounced. I was like, okay,
that's fantastic that you impacted him in such
a
way. He's like, I changed my life just based off of what you told me, and you're like, yep, that's the reason.
You should have sent the email I sent my department talking about the guy who jerks off. I mean,
Justin Jurgens.
See, when Doug told me that you sent this pun laden email, he just ended it there. I didn't know so I thought it was very light puns on people's names. I didn't realize you went that hard.
It mostly was, but there was that one where I was like, oh no.
I remember talking to a couple people, and I was like, should I send this? And they were like, a couple people were like, no. And a couple people were like, yeah. And I was like,
you're going to get a mixed bag. Yeah.
Well, the thing that's so cool is that, honestly, like I look back on those years is that was a messed up company. It still is to this day. Like it's one of those things where I'm glad I was
brought him
there.
down.
It taught me a lot. It actually allowed me to transition into something that I was really good at and I was passionate about, which is the training side of things, which was great. I met some fantastic people. I honestly look back on that fondly for the people that I met, like people like you and, you know, do you remember Omari by chance? Omari Brown?
Yeah, Amari was cool as hell.
Yeah, we actually just had him on a couple weeks ago. He fucking works for the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Like,
oh wow,
he's an assistant producer, like on that show now.
Awesome. Yeah, he was very kind and unassuming.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. He's such and still same cool, humble, awesome dude. Like. We've had him on a couple times just because we're like, every time we talk to him, he's like moving further along in the career. He like went to the Emmys. We're like, tell us what it's like to go to the Emmys. Like, you know, just, and he's just such a cool, humble dude. But like, he also was just at SMS. Like I met so many cool, amazing people at this really bizarre, strange, and unethical kind of company, you know, where we all got to share this experience together. But I've had some lasting bonds from people that I haven't really had it. Well, I mean, Justin actually is probably the king of all the people. Justin and Drew, because Justin and Justin's work partner, Drew, I met Drew at a hotel job, which was hell. Because of him, I was able to get out of that. And because he got me to this other job, I met Justin. And because of that, here we are today. Connections, you know, that's how it all works. And it was amazing. But I have fond memories of like that time, like hanging out with people like you, like Omari, and doing this weird job, really weird job. Random. And just at the same time, just being silly, having a good time like that. Those are the things I take with me. And occasionally I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, we were doing some kind of fucked up shit, you know, like
I don't think I got that
working class people's lives, you know?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I didn't get that deep into the belly of the beast. The thing that I was off put by, and I think other people probably loved this, but for me, it felt like it felt like it was like everyone, not you were already married at that point, but there were so many, it was like, there was so much people, like everyone went out with each other. Like it was like too much of an ecosystem. Like people were dating, hooking up, going out. And it was like every day people would come up to me and be like, yo, are you going to the bar with us? Like whatever. Yeah. And while that's like really nice, I was like, you know, moved to Chicago to do comedy. And at that point I was like hyper independent at that point. So I was like very like, and I kept people would kind of like give me shit about it. And I'm like, you're just like at some level, like it's good to have the wall of like, it's great when you make, like, I have great friends I met from working, like, you know, but sometimes you need that wall up to be like, no, I'm going to go do this by myself, or I'm going to go meet with my real friends, or I'm going to go home and like, you know, like, and then not have to see everybody. Like, the walls just were down from the beginning. Because I feel like they lassoed a bunch of millennials and were like, put us all in a room and basically like, we don't care if you date each other, if you fuck, if you go out after the, like whatever, as long as you're here at 9 a.m. to get these blue collar workers onto this app. Like
the reason they called it the pit, right? Yeah. They threw you in there and they're like, whatever happens, happens.
You're so true about the hookup stuff too. I didn't realize for the longest time that one of the team leads was like in a deep relationship with our director. Like the two of them almost got married.
Tell me about
Ben
that.
and Shannon. Let's blow up their spot.
Yes.
I heard that years later.
I didn't know. Like they're like, oh yeah, they were engaged at one point and then they broke up. And I'm like, what? What? I had no idea. I just, you know, people were going out to the bars afterwards. People were banging like crazy. I was oblivious to it all. I was like, huh? This is going on? But I remember one time, like, we were real big into shuffleboard. That was a big thing. Over lunchtime, we'd go down, play shuffleboard. And I'd go out to the bars with them a couple times, just play shuffleboard. People get mad because I was good for a hot second. And like, well, he's not even drinking. And one night they were like, hey man, you coming to do shuffleboard? I'm like, actually, no, I'm going to go meet with a financial advisor. And the guy goes, what are you trying to buy a boat or something? And I was like,
oh no.
I was like, no, I just want to save for retirement. And did you know that a boat is a depreciating asset? Sit down with me. I'm going to tell you about why you should never buy a boat. But yeah, I was just like that. There was a huge disconnect between like, wait, why are you? Because they would go buy lunch every single day. They'd go to the bars after work every single day, just like spending this money like this. I'm like, yeah, no, I kind of want to plan for my future. They're like, what does that mean? What future?
Well, I think it's weird because when I worked at the Container Store way back in the day, when I was much younger, that was the culture there as well. At that time, it was like, if you've ever seen that movie Waiting,
Yes.
it was very much
yeah.
It was very much like that. Like it was just in the stockroom, anything went, and everyone went out and just got obliterated after work, and we were all friends, and there was hookups and there was drama, whatever. It was very much like that. But I think there's a difference when it's a retail store and it's populated with certain people, and when you're in this supposedly professional corporate job on the whatever floor of the Hancocks. Like, I think there's a different level of expectation when it comes to those two different things. Like, it's a little like, again, retail I think is one thing, but it's a little different when you're in that corporate environment and you've got people who are just rolling into work, just stinking of alcohol and regretting who they hooked up with last night. But now they got to sit across from them and answer phones and facilitate some bullshit, cleaning. It's a very different vibe between the two environments.
Yeah, for sure. Richie says in the chat, it's funny how you can spend 8 to 12 hours a day with someone and not consider them a real friend, like someone outside work that you might see once a week or an hour or two. He goes, that might just be an English thing, though. I'm like, I mean, I've had those relationships where I'm like, I get along fine with people and everything like that. But then there's that weird moment where they're like, you see them outside of work and you're like, no.
It's like seeing a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, I remember too. I actually think, and this is like, again, like, who really cares? But I do remember my interview, and they basically were like, we want to hire people like we don't mind like hanging out with. Like, you see, like basically they were hiring me because I had a college degree and I seemed chill. Like, so it was like,
I remember the interview process.
Bro.
Yeah.
Well, on the team? All right. Yeah,
well, I know I know someone in particular was like, dude, Matt can play soccer, man. He's on our soccer team because there was actually an intramural soccer team. We're like, dude, Matt's no joke, man. That guy can fucking ball. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah, he's legit. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I am legit.
No joke.
I'll back it up.
Hey, yeah. I saw that video you posted on Instagram where you kicked it and just went right through the little crack in the garage door. You're just like, boop. You just popped it through. I was like, holy shit, that guy's that's amazing.
What's funny about that, that was this summer, and that was like actually the video you can't see is actually from like very far away. Like it was like the driveway was bending, so you couldn't quite see. But I was like to my wife, I was like, Corey, I'm feeling it. Just turn on the camera. And then I did it like first time, just pass this ball like 50 yards into a sliver of a garage, and then the rest of the summer I tried to repeat it and couldn't.
Well, what I love about it too is you did it, and then you didn't even make a big deal about it. You're just like, yep, nailed it. And you're like, what do you want from me?
I literally tried every day again for like 30 days because we were in Maine for like a month. I was just out there trying to repeat it and just couldn't do it. But it's because there's certain things you do when you do it intuitively and confidently, you pull it off. But as soon as you start thinking about it, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like sleep is a great, I've been having little sleep issues. And as soon as I feel my body, like this wave of probably melatonin, like surging into my skull, I'm like, it's happening. Get on this. And then but the act of being conscious of that, I'm like, oh fuck, I'm still awake. Like,
I've had the same thing where I try to visualize, this is so bizarre, but I visualize like being in a very small crawl space and laying down. And like I visualize myself slowly like sinking into the floor, and like it's gonna sound morbid, like darkness is sort of like kind of like enveloping me, and I'm just sinking in to go to sleep, and the darkness is sleep. But because I'm focusing on that and I'm feeling it, and because I'm aware of it, and then all of a sudden the floor gets hard and I can't slip through. And I'm just like, no, man, don't. So I've gotten rid of that visualization because whenever I think of that, I immediately wake. Like I can't slip into it because it's like, nope, you're thinking about it. I'm like, damn it, come on, man. Oh, man. So, all right. Before we get too far off the rails here, Matt, I want to talk about the cool stuff that you've been doing. You sent me an email. You've been doing some really cool shit. You're a very creative guy. So let's start with like Jill's Bike. You did this short film. You wrote it. You directed it. You shot it. You color corrected it. Like you did the whole thing. Tell everyone about it.
Oh yeah, so I made a 12-minute short film. It's really kind of like 11 minutes, and the last minute is credits with a song about it. Like chronicles a few days in a woman's life in the wake of her breakup and the theft of her bike. And I've had my bike stolen a couple times, and I think in Portland especially, it's a big problem, and like it happens quite a bit. And the thing I've always been like fixated on is like it never feels the same. Like when you get another bike, you're like, oh, this isn't the last one you're riding. I'm like riding it. Like, have you seen Annie Hall?
I'm familiar with it, but I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, well, obviously Woody Allen, reprehensible character, but there's this great. There in the beginning of the film, he and Annie are at this beach house and they're goofing around with lobsters, and like he's clearly afraid of the lobster or whatever. And then at the end of the film, spoiler alert, they've broken up, and he's like trying to recreate the same memory with a new woman. He's like, this is crazy. Look at these lobsters. Like, you know, and anyway, that experience being a bike, but then also taking on like a bike is just so laden with symbolism with childhood and all that stuff. And it was kind of, I worked with this really great actor named Rose Proctor, and I was and it doesn't have any dialogue. And for me, I have a pretty good memory, and I think for strength of mind is writing dialogue. And I was like, this is definitely becoming a crutch. I was like reading a lot of the things I was writing, and I was like, let's see if I can work on the storytelling and visuals and do the cinematography without saying anything. So I wrote it, and then if I didn't find this actor, I don't know if it would have came together, but she was really down to do it and totally got what I was going for. So we shot it over in November. And yeah, it's about 12 minutes, and pretty proud of it. I think it came together well.
That's a really
awesome.
cool approach to kind of identify that this is the thing that I'm almost I'm almost too good at this thing, and I need to stretch some other muscles. And like in that process, did you learn anything about yourself, or did you have any aha moments in going with a silent, more or less a silent film?
Well, let's see here. I feel like I definitely it was just a good reminder as well, because I get aha moments or learn something. Like I'm so like I've tried. I feel like I've kind of dipped in pretty much everything with comedy, and like I did stand up, I did improv, I made rap albums, I've made a feature film, like I've written fiction, I've written screenplays. So it's like I've done it all, like tried everything, and I'm very much like in the writer's camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then going out and producing something again, it was good to it's like divorcing your ego again, because you watch stuff and you're like being critical of it, and then when you're like you going back out into the world and producing something is so fucking hard, and you want something just simple. Like I was like, I want an insert shot of her Converses pedaling the bike. That'll be nice. Oh, I don't have a dolly. I'm not gonna get a permit and rent a car and do this thing. So it's me scurrying along, holding a camera rig, and all of a sudden I realize you can hear my footsteps. I can't use any of it. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Right.
It's good for anybody who's into screenwriting to make their own things, because it's like you have to, because I wrote this script and it was very compact and precise. And right away I was like, we can't make it like how I put it in my head, but here's what we can actually do.
Sure.
And then and I kept telling myself as well, you get what you get and you don't get upset with like the footage. I was shooting the whole thing on my phone with an anamorphic lens attachment and like a mic. And I was like, I'm just going to put my best foot forward, and like whatever I get, I'm just like not going to complain about it. I'm not going to reshoot anything, because I want to make something. It's been quite a while since I made anything.
Yeah.
So that was stuff I learned again, just to be less critical of produced work, and to like remember how hard it is, and have that go with that instinct instead of the writer brain, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's the hallmark of an indie filmmaker. I mean, you've got to putting yourself in the role of all the roles and understanding how they all operate, and that your mantra that you get what you get, you can't be upset about it. Like sometimes that is what it is. And you're like, okay, this is what I have. I don't have any more money to do it. I don't have any more time or whatever resource I'm lacking. How am I going to make this work? And I think that's a wonderful exercise in creativity and filmmaking.
For the record, in the chat, Moon Silhouette says that sounds great, Matt. So you got someone who's like impressed with the effort, because sorry to cut you off, Justin, by the way. I didn't mean to do that, because I'm a bad friend. So
I was just going to ask about lighting, if you use practical lighting or if you actually set up any lights.
I did not use any lighting.
Okay.
I did all natural lighting. Some of it actually, that was a good thing too, because I wanted to be like, I wanted to just produce something in Portland and spend as little money as possible.
Mhm.
So I spent the whole thing, in total. I bought a camera lens or the lenses for my phone. I bought, I paid for food on the day, and I wanted to stay everything under 400 or around $400. So I didn't want to buy lights, and I was like, I'm not going to buy lights. And if it becomes clear for my next project, I will buy lights. It's clear for my next project, I need to have lights.
we learn, right? We learn as we go.
That's because it was because of the lens, and I got a lot of natural light stuff. Not all stuff looks amazing, super easy to color grade. I was like, can't believe this is coming from my phone. But then the stuff that's indoors, so many great performance moments was just really washed out or weird or grainy. So I think next time I shoot something, I probably won't buy any lights. I'll probably hire a little gaffer or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was gonna say the closing scene where you're tracking her on the side and then you stop and she keeps walking and you get those traffic lights.
Mm-hmm.
Or not the headlights coming in.
Yeah,
you get those beautiful lens flares coming across with that anamorphic. It was the outside, like you said, the outside shots. You picked up some real just gems on the outside. It was wonderful.
I think the kids today would call them bangers. Some real bangers.
That's what it is.
Bangers and mash.
Yeah, bangers and mash.
You. Oh yeah, have you guys seen it?
Yeah.
If it's okay if you haven't. Okay, cool. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was a lot of fun because at first I was like, I turned on closed captions because I'm like, I can't hear what she's saying. When she was staring at herself. She's just talking. I'm like, I didn't hear what she said. I'm like, oh wait, there hasn't been anything spoken yet. Oh, I'll get it. I get it. There's no talking in this. Got it. Understood. I thought it was fun. I especially liked. I like watching stuff where you treat the viewer like a smart person. And you're like, we're going to tell a story without having to beat you over the head with this. You know what I mean? And fun. You were able to, there was a lot that you were able to understand and enjoy and I think empathize with, the breakup, how you're feeling after the fact, trying to figure out what to wear, there was just a lot of that stuff that, just I can identify with, just feeling down, depressed, and then having the bike be stolen too. You're like, God damn, I feel like it tapped into a lot of cool stuff. And what I love hearing you talk about with this is part of the problem I run into is I have a lot of ideas. I can't get them out of my head, partially because it's a lot of work. And also I'm scared sometimes, because I'm scared to be vulnerable. I'm scared to put the stuff out because I'm afraid for people to judge it. But I've slowly been getting better with that, where I'm like, you know what? I'm just making this for me. You know what I mean? I want to make this because I want to be able to create something. So whenever I hear someone be like, I have a colleague at work she's writing a book. And she's feeling, she's like, oh, I don't know. She goes, I think I'm done. I don't know what to do. I don't know who's going to be an editor. I was like, find some, there's a freelance market out there. There's absolutely going to be editors. I'm like, you need to do this. Do this. You're creating it. She's like, well, I don't even know, publishing. I'm like, who gives a shit? Self-publish it. Get it out there. Do it. Make your thing. You've put this time into it. Make your thing. Do it. Because that takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of time to do it. And it absolutely just... I find you very inspiring to be like, I'm going to go make this thing, and what I love about it too is you're like, you know what? It didn't go as planned, but I learned for next time what I'm going to do. And I think that's really cool because a lot of people, myself included, get so much into their head that they don't even get moving because they can see every obstacle a mile down the road. And they're just like, nah, I just won't do it. And you're like, fuck it. Let's do it. I don't give a shit. Let's see if we can make this happen. And you did it. And I think that's awesome. That I think is, it sums up your personality so much. When I think of you, I think of Matt as this carefree in a good way, creative, funny person who's like, fuck it, let's do it. I'm going to send an email to the whole place about this guy jerking off. Who cares? Whatever, it's all good.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I don't know. It's good. It's the thing that I think people have to remember is if you try something and you fail, no one has to know. You don't have to send I think there's a whole culture of, and it's a good thing, but there's this whole culture of, I've observed, tell me if you guys have observed this, where people view failure as a way to getting good at something, which is true, but they overemphasize in a sense where it's like, and then it puts failure almost more on this pedestal. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you have to have these epic failures that lead to fame.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like rather than like something that sucks and you don't want to share with anyone. Like it's totally fair. There's another thing that I try to keep in mind as well. I know where I remember I read this. Remember Stumble Upon?
Oh
yes,
yeah.
we've used that
Yeah.
for a couple episodes back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I used to stumble hard freshman year of college when I was smoking a lot of weed. And I saw a quote there that I don't remember it, but it was word for word, but it was basically like it's much better to be the author of something bad than the author of a hypothetical masterpiece.
Amen.
So
Absolutely.
you know,
Amen.
it's just,
I was gonna simplify it, make it. It's better to be the author of a failure than the author of nothing. That's kind of how I would put it. Like same thing. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. No fear. Bam. I remember those shirts. You know, it's yeah. I look at this as you can watch the worst movie out there, right? Battlefield Earth is a contender for it. But you know what? That film got made. People that when I've heard filmmakers or creators say it is the fact that a movie can get made is a goddamn miracle. That is true. The amount of effort it takes to make something, to put all of that stuff together, to write it, to get funding, to get, I don't know, SAG permission, to get, you know, all this stuff. I'm triggering Justin right now. You know, all these things to then get the actors and then to film it and then to edit it and then to audio and then color grade and then hopefully a producer doesn't hold it hostage and then, you know, like all these things, you know, and then to put it out there and be like, we did it. And then someone goes, yeah, that movie kind of sucks. You know, it's just like you forget and listen, I am the most guilty of doing that. Years ago, I was the shittiest person where I'm like, that movie's terrible. Nah, the worst. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, listen, is that movie objectively bad? Yes. But you know what? I can appreciate the effort that went into it. No one sets out to make a bad movie. No one's
true.
like, we're gonna
make a piece of shit.
We're making a 1%er on Rotten Tomatoes, gang. A 1%er, okay?
Right.
We're going for it. No one intends for that to happen.
We failed.
Yeah, right? Yeah. If we get out of the 10%, fuck it, man. We didn't do a good job. No one intends for that to happen. And I think when you put that in perspective, it's like, you fucking celebrate it, you know? We have a fan and a mod, Jared. I don't know why I was like Jared. He loves just experiencing stuff. Like he doesn't good, bad, other, like he doesn't like shitting on stuff. He hates toxic fandoms and stuff like that. And he's really grown on me over the years as he's just like, can't we just enjoy stuff? Like just sit down, turn on something, watch it and be like, hey, I'm glad to be here consuming this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I got to try to be more like that instead of being such a critical piece of shit because, you know, there's times where I'll get frustrated as just a viewer of something if it doesn't make sense, like the story doesn't connect, or I feel like there's missed opportunities and I could see a path in my mind where something could be better. And I'm like, what are we doing? Or I feel like the filmmakers are making me feel dumb. They're not treating me like a smart human being, but still just looking back and be like, they fucking made this, man. Like they made this thing. Totally. They created this thing. People are trying. They're acting. They're trying. You know, again, no one's like, I'm going to do a bad job acting in this movie. You know, like no one's trying to do that.
No, I mean, for sure. I think one thing I've learned as well that's important is like, I have a couple friends who send me stuff for notes, you know, like they'll send me scripts or send me fiction or a film to like give feedback on. And it's actually really hard. And as a teacher, I know there's like this triangle of higher order thinking, and create is right up there with evaluate. It's very hard to evaluate something, which is why most critics and stuff, you read it and you're like, it's people viewing a film through a political lens and trying to like get clicks. It's very hard to have like a Pauline Kael or a Roger Ebert who has like a very thoughtful approach. And it's like, I've learned just from trying to give helpful critiques to my friends is like, you have to distinguish between what is inconsistent and what isn't to your taste.
Right.
So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I am an instructional designer, so I design training and things like that all the time. And where I get the most frustrated, where people are like, I don't like the color scheme. I'm like, I'm not asking you about your personal aesthetics. I'm asking, does this make sense? I'm asking you to check the grammar. I'm asking you to check the flow. Asking, is this too much reading? Does there need to be an interaction that's built in to break this up? I don't need you to be like, I feel like you should use this hex color. Like, go fuck yourself. All right, listen. That took me to a dark place, because that's one of the reasons why I left Grubhub, because I had someone that's like, I don't like the way this looks. I'm like, that's your aesthetic. That's your aesthetic, not mine. And I got to the point towards the end, I was like, I don't want to hear your opinions about how this looks. I need you to tell me, does this function appropriately? And so it's the same thing, right? Like, what are the nuts and bolts that aren't working? Mm-hmm. And you could also provide, this is just my taste. This is how I feel. If that's not yours, take it or leave it, whatever. That's just my suggestion, with that caveat of, like
that comes in a different place. Like for me, I'm like, I'm always like, here's what I really love. Here's what's really working. Here's the things that stuck out to me as needing development. And here's some suggestions from my silly lens of where you could take this, because ultimately as well, I don't know if it's different, but now I'm like, I've made enough stuff where I'm like, I'm not getting off on helping someone, like before when I was younger, I feel like I was like, oh my God, people are coming. Like I want to and ultimately, and maybe I don't know if I did, I can't quite remember, but maybe had a little more of a shittier impulse to like tear something down. And now I'm like, oh, they're asking for my help. Like, how can I actually like help it? So it's like,
that's a great way.
Then I think it helps your own work. Cause then it's like, you're just trying to make something that's consistent, or if it's inconsistent tonally or something, it's on purpose.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, there's amazing Oscar-winning movies that I don't like. So, but you can't say it's objectively, it's bad. It's just not what you like. And it's tough when you're someone like the three of us, where it's like, and I think everyone views themselves as creative, where you want to make stuff. It's really hard to not be like, oh, I would have done it this way. Like the ultimate, and I'm going to plug my podcast now, the Film Rooms podcast, which is about the best like book to film adaptations and all that stuff, talking about the writer, talking about the filmmaker, is the biggest example of what we're talking about. I had was seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I saw it on opening day at Quentin Tarantino's theater in Los Angeles, and I wanted it to be a very specific movie, and it was not that at all. So I just fucking hated it. And then I had in the podcast, in our episode about Jackie Brown, we were talking about it. My friend Tanner just fully rebutted me on all the points I was making and was just like, here's why it's consistent and here's why it's about on-screen violence. My point was like, he's shoehorning criticism and conversations about on-screen violence when really he's just playing with it because he's Tarantino. And then my friend, my co-host Tanner was like, no, here are all the ways it's actually moving this agenda forward. And it starts at the very beginning. And I was like, I'm fucking wrong. I love that movie now. That's my favorite movie.
That perspective is like, huge, right? Your perception of how things are going to go. That's killed so many movies for me, where I go and being like, I know what this is. And then it's like, that's not what it is. And all of a sudden you're like, man, fuck this movie. That was Iron Man 3 for me. I went in, I felt like they lied to me in the marketing, what that film was, and the twist that they had it in. I was like, fuck you. Fuck all you guys. Like, you just ruined it. And I'm about to rewatch that movie this weekend. I'm going through the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe with my daughter from, the release, order. And Iron Man 3 is up next. So I'm like, I'm kind of not looking forward to it because it left such a bad taste in my mouth. But I'm like, I also haven't watched it in years. So I'm like, this might be good time for some fresh eyes. We'll see how this goes. And we'll see how we feel about it.
Stuff.
What's that?
You may not.
It's great to reappraise stuff. Like, come back, come to it and reappraise it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is watch movies that I'm like, I love this as a kid. Watching it, I'm like, oh my God.
Maybe this holds up, maybe?
Yeah. I got a couple of good chats here. Richie would say, just because you can doesn't always mean you should. But that's coming from a point of view of having to listen to hundreds of really bad records each week. Richie has a podcast called You Haven't Heard This Music Podcast, where he basically showcases indie music every week on the podcast. Cool. So, hey, listen. Long tail theory, and the way that we exist with content being out there, listen, there's going to be a lot of stuff that is objectively bad. That's kind of how it goes. But it's a learning process, right? That's why I hope to say is that people will create and then iterate and go from there. And he also said art is subjective, I guess. One person's horse shit is another person's masterpiece.
What's a movie or a book that you guys think is like that you love that like you feel like popular consensus is that it sucks?
A book turned into a film or either or?
Either
It's
or.
a piece of, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
There was a lot of backlash from some folks on the adaptation to The Sandman on Netflix. I love The Sandman comics.
Is that based on the Neil Gaiman?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I like the adaptation. I think some people don't know how to read and don't know how to look at pictures. And this is one of those ones where people are like, how come Death's black? Because they're white in the comic. It's like, Jesus Christ, guys. Like, can we not move past this sort of situation? But they made some adjustments to it, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great adaptation. I'm so glad they got renewed for season 2. I look forward to it. But I think there was some mixed reactions from folks. Some of them hardcore fans. Other people didn't know it, and they're like, this seems like some woke agenda. And I'm like, actually, no, this is pretty much the comic. I mean, they were pretty consistent with it and everything like that. So I appreciate it. I didn't necessarily understand the backlash.
Okay.
I would have to say the same. I loved the comics, and I really was a fan of the adaptation. As far as just like something that's standalone that wasn't converted from one medium to another, I'd have to give some thinking on that because I know there are some. But let me flip it back around to you and ask, in that vein, because this is an ongoing debate we've had on this podcast, and I'm just curious because you seem to have a very thoughtful approach to a lot of this. Is there such a thing as a guilty pleasure?
Oh, it's interesting.
Because if you like it, why is it guilty?
I mean, I'm sure it's like a socially constructed idea, but that's a very interesting question. I mean, I think it's I don't know if guilty is the right word. I think a better word would be like shameful. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like you're kind of ashamed about it. Like you don't want people to know for any number of reasons. Yeah, you know, I think guilty is like, I don't think guilt is a real thing other than like when you do something wrong. Like there's a lot of people, like, for example, I've always said this, and someone please put me in my place if you disagree. I think Catholic guilt is like people just say that, you know what I mean? They're like, I was raised Catholic, so now I'm like weird whenever like, well, and it's like, shut up. So was I. I'm not guilty about anything other than stuff I've don't get me wrong. I've trespassed against those who will not temptation, whatever the prayer is. I've had my fair share of trespassing. I'm not, you know, I've totally, you know, I've hurt many people's feelings and feel horrible about it, in thinking about from 3rd grade on or anything, you know, any number of times. But like, and that's I feel guilt about. So it's like guilty about, if in terms of like, if I'm being too literal, like guilty, I don't feel guilty about anything that I like. But I do feel ashamed about some things that I like.
And that's totally fair. I think let me qualify that just a little bit. So the debate stems from we were talking with someone else, and they were like, well, why is it a guilty pleasure? And you're like, well, because it's a bad movie, but I like it. And he's like, if you like it, then you can't think it's bad.
False.
Like,
it's someone being embarrassed.
It's apparently not bad.
Well, yeah, that's it. I think it's the semantics of this are maybe important then, because it's someone being embarrassed about liking it, and they're qualifying it by saying, well, it's guilty pleasure. It's like, no, you like this, you don't want to admit it. Like one of the things I said, you don't want to admit outright that you like it. Like one thing I used to say, I tried doing it as a stand-up joke. It never really worked, but it would kind of get like some applause. So I would be like, if you don't like one Justin Bieber song and one Taylor Swift song, you're a hater. You gotta like one. You know what I mean? If you don't like any of them, they're like, are they like amazing? No, I don't like Justin Bieber. I don't like Taylor Swift. But like Confident, Justin Bieber, great song. Wildest Dreams, the acoustic stripped down version at the Grammy Museum, Taylor Swift. Hell yeah, moves me. So it's like, it's that type of thing. Like people don't want to admit that they like something that isn't they perceive to be cool. Yeah. So they qualify with that. So I don't really think it exists. I think people are just embarrassed. And I totally get it. I'm embarrassed.
I think that's a great qualifier. I'd add that there's stuff that I like when I know it's objectively bad. Battlefield Earth being one of those movies. I look at that film, I'm like, this is not a good film on a lot of levels. I'm not as shameful about it anymore. I'm like, yeah, no, when that movie's on and I can find it, I'm like, clear my schedule. I'm watching this shit show of a film because it's enjoyable, you know?
Constantine.
That
one's one of mine. I have been trying for 12 years to get my wife to watch it, and she will not watch it. And
why not?
I haven't seen it. And I just sent her a Nerdist article that said that the sequel to it is still in the works. And I'm like, huh? We can't see the second one if you don't see the first one. So,
yeah, that one's not bad. I think it got more shit than it deserved, but
I agree. But
I enjoyed it. But
well, another thing that's like too is interesting, kind of goes back to my point about criticism of like, it's actually, I went down a rabbit hole of like, I don't get why anybody critiques anything. Like, I kind of went that way, like being like, everyone shut the fuck up. And then but then I was reading about it and being like, no, there's always been good criticism. Whenever there's good, interesting work, there's good, interesting criticism. They're parallel disciplines that go together. So like, it's actually really important. There's always, you got to be engaging with it. But here's the thing. Sometimes though, filmmakers or whatever the medium is, the artist is ahead of the critics.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So they're doing something new or interesting. Like the classic one is like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I don't know where you guys net out on that one. I fucking love that movie. I think it's a masterpiece. Pauline Kael, who's like my favorite critic, was basically like, this movie sucks. Anybody who goes to see it is just some weird hippie trying to get off on the visuals. Where you're like, oh, it's because like this was something new. So it's like,
right.
You know what I mean? It's a very weird thing. That's why I just bring it back. Do I like it or do I not like it? Or am I embarrassed about it?
Yeah.
And for me, it's just like Last Action Hero. Like when it came out, it was like panned. No one liked it, but it was ahead of its time because it was actually doing a critique on action movies. Like it was making fun of all the tropes.
Yeah.
But it was marketed as this action film, but it was, if you look back at it, you're like, oh yeah, it's making fun of all that shit. It's such a meta thing that we didn't understand what meta was at the time. So like in retrospect, you're like, this actually was ahead of its time and no one was able to catch on.
Yeah, it's like deconstructing that genre.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it has to be the best things that are deconstructing genre or type of movie or whatever are still in that category. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to be like, oh, action films suck, so we're gonna make something that disparages that, like disaster movie or date movie or like those type of movies. But like to actually critique or deconstruct that thing, but be in that camp and be like, no, this is a good but this is good.
Yeah. It's very difficult to do, and props to anyone that can pull that off.
It's so difficult.
Real quick here, I had a really good quick quote from Richie here. He says, if you build 1,000 bridges, you're a bridge builder. But if you build 1,000 bridges and suck on cock, you are just a cocksucker. Same goes for liking just one Justin Bieber song. I don't quite get that, but I thought it was funny.
I think instead of on, it's one.
Yeah.
So
if you build
Richie,
1,000 bridges,
I'm my daughter's in the other room. I'm a cocksucker because I like Confident by Justin Bieber. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're fucking telling
that's
me?
what I'm hearing Richie say, and that's a hot take. I don't know about that.
That's very true. That's very true.
That's a shame.
There is someone.
Maybe you should go to bed. Almost 2 a.m. in the UK.
Shots fired.
He goes, yeah, it's spelling mistake. Yeah, I know. It's all good. Richie's a good dude. All right. Let's head into
there is someone who we can ask, like when things, is that too far? Is that correct? What does that mean? What is good? What is bad? There is someone that we often go to in this podcast when we have practical needs, it's practical questions that need practical answers.
You got the questions, we got the answers. All you do is ask. Practical. Ask Practical Doug.
It's time once again for Ask Practical Doug. If you haven't been here for this, Matt, this is a new one for you. Ask Practical Doug. Practical Doug is a small Doug that lives inside of Big Doug, and he guides Big Doug on many of life's journeys and helps him with many of life's quandaries. So people listening right now, you can either watch us live and in the chat while we're streaming live, 7 p.m. Central on Tuesdays. You can Ask Practical Doug there. On any social media, hashtag Ask Practical Doug and tag us. Or on the Discord, there is a specific channel just for Ask Practical Doug questions. So today, we are going to ask practical everybody on the podcast because Doug has found himself a wonderful Am I the Asshole off of Reddit, and we're going to weigh in on this. So Douglas, please.
There was another one that I really wanted to do, but it got taken down within the 24 hours of me finding it. So we're going to go with the runner-up here. So here we go. Am I the asshole for how I responded to my wife's hypothetical situation that has pissed her off, even though I said it was stupid. All right, so that's the title. So here we go. This is an unbelievably stupid argument that not even based from a real situation or one that is likely to ever happen. I'm a 37 male and my wife is 35. My wife asked me that if there was ever a situation in which her and our 2 kids, who are 5 and 7, were in danger, who would I save first? I told her right from the bat it was a stupid question to ask, and I didn't want to keep talking about it, but she kept pushing and pushing for an answer, so I just said out of instinct I'd save the kids first. She then got really irritated, asking, well, what about me? I reiterated how stupid her question was, and that there's literally no point in talking about it, but again, she wouldn't shut up about it. Ultimately, I just said to her out of annoyance that in any scenario, I'd save the kids first, then go back for her, and that I hoped she'd do the same considering the kids come first always. Well, now she's pissed off at me over some fake scenario, all because I said I'd save the kids over her. She says I'm an asshole for being unfeeling and callous, and that I'm belittling her for calling the question stupid, and she has gone on the defensive, basically saying I'm calling her stupid. She has been snappy, not really talking to me, and is in general just being argumentative. Am I the asshole?
No.
This has been Ask Practical Doug.
Ask Practical Doug, yeah.
I'll share. I mean, no, it's like, no, that's a boundary violation. When you press someone for an answer and they don't want to talk, whatever they say, it has to be like diplomatic immunity or something. And then, it sounds like an episode of King of Queens, which we talked about last year, 5 years ago. But no, I think like here, and my point of view is like, yeah, like the kids come first in survival. They don't necessarily need to come first always. You still got to be dating your wife. You know what I mean? But I would say no. You can call off sides because that was a boundary violation. You were forced to talk when you didn't want to talk, and your answer is perfectly viable. No, you're not an asshole.
I have to agree from Practical Doug. Number one, like, first of all, I love the way that you said that this is a boundary violation. This person's like, I don't want to participate in this. And as someone who has borderline bullied Justin's business partner, Drew, to weigh in on hypotheticals like this, he is a huge baseball fan. I was like, all right, Drew, get this. What if we changed baseball to where you have, like, if someone hits the ball and they're running, you can actually take the ball and peg the person, like, you know, just go for it and just like nail them. Because it changes everything. Because it's like, if you're going to steal a base, you could get fucking slammed with this ball, and you have people that just are so good, and they're like dodgeball guys. Yeah. They're just getting, he's like, I don't want to talk about this because it will never happen. This is dumb. I'm like, yeah, but what if he goes, I don't want to talk about this? And I would just try to get him to talk about it. So in that vein, I understand the hypothetical if it's just a silly hypothetical. In this situation, this guy's like, I don't even want to think about this, right? It's like saying, hey, which kid's your favorite? Because let's face it, there is one. And it can change over time, but you got a favorite. You know, I mean, like, if they're like, listen, this is a what if that I don't want to play, and then you don't like their answer when they finally give it, sorry. Right. I'm sorry they didn't give you the answer that you wanted from this hypothetical scenario. Like,
it's also a leading question,
right?
You clearly, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like, yeah. So
I'll say this. I'll put the caveat on this because I agree with both of you, but I'll put the caveat on that he could have probably tried to shoot this conversation down in a little bit gentler way.
I don't know what you mean.
This is a stupid question. Like it is intimating that she is like it's belittling her. Like it. Mm-hmm. In like it could be taken that way. Basically, you're setting up. No matter how you answer now, she's always got that in the back of her in the back of her satchel.
I agree with that, but then I will say I think we're being really loosey goosey with the transitive property. If you're saying because you said this question is stupid, you're saying I'm stupid. Like, have some self-esteem.
I totally hear that. I hear that. I'm just
very loosey goosey with the transitive property. All right.
I agree with that as well. I'm just saying, like I feel like
to maybe use a different
Switzerland
word.
Here. It could have gone, hey, look, this is a hypothetical A I'm uncomfortable with, and B I don't think we need to be having. I will not be answering you. We're done here. Like, just
Based on how this guy wrote this to the general public very aggressively, I'm willing to bet he was also equally aggressive to his wife. So I'm sure the communication. Right. I'm going to side with Jess on that, where he probably could have been a little more delicate. I'm just assuming in the way that he's like, this is fucking stupid. You know what I mean? Like, that's combative, you know?
I told her how dumb this idea was. Told her I want to fucking have this conversation. And I told her face, and I went out for a beer.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair.
but I mean, still stand.
He probably. I will say this though. He probably did take to the keyboard because he was probably more pissed when he hit the keyboard. You know. So it kind of reminds me of like when we were in Italy. It's really hard to travel internationally with a child.
Oh, no kidding.
Stories from just that trip, and me and my wife we're totally fine. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye on travel stuff because no one does. When you know what I mean. It's very, if you ever a great test if you want to see if you want to get married is go on an international trip with them. But anyway, I had this idea of like, it'd be really interesting to write a short story that's like two people are traveling and they're really not on the same page at all. And I thought of this when I was in Italy, but I was like too close to that. Even though we weren't even going through that, that was the germ of the idea. And all of a sudden I'm like writing and it feels like I'm trying to win an argument. You know what I mean? I'm like, this sucks. This whole thing sucks. I'm pretending I didn't have this idea. So maybe the guy's doing the same thing. Maybe he's taking to Reddit, trying to win the argument there, you know?
It's a fair point.
That could be too. I think Richie had a really good point. He says, my kids have a future. He goes, exactly. I agree that my kids have a future. She lost hers when she married me.
Yeah, that seems fair. He also said some questions are simply loaded and poisoned and there's no correct answer in everyone's eyes. Best thing to do is just stop, drop, and roll.
Absolutely, yeah. This was a losing conversation before it even started.
Yeah, and honestly, that's being a parent, you know, I always was, you know, when I wasn't a parent, people said, you know, there's going to be some things that shows you're going to watch topics that are going to make you not look at it the same way being a parent. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those scenarios where I'm like, I don't even want to imagine it, where I have to choose. Yeah. You know, between, because I'm also with Matt on this one. This isn't a one size fits all situation. This is a case by case scenario. You know what I mean? Like, because there could be a situation where I actually need Jill to survive so that she could potentially help Natalie survive based on the situation, right? Let's take an airplane, right? Sure. Airplane's going down. What do? You put your mask on first before you help your kid, right? There's bound to be a situation where you're like, I need to help myself and Jill in order to help Natalie. Because if I just help Natalie, we're all fucked. I can't think of what that scenario is off the top of my head, but it would be case by case. And if you're just speaking just in general, it's like, do you love me enough to save me over our children? I'm like, I'm kind of in the case of like, I'm probably going to save the kid first. And I'm imagining you're going to tell me to do the same. That's kind of like my relationship with my wife is just like, save the kid, you know, like make sure she's safe.
Let me ask this. In that write-up, did he say they have two kids?
Yes, 5 and 7.
Yeah, 5 and 7.
So really the question is, out of the 3, which one gets saved?
Oh,
that's
boy.
The true question that she should have.
Yeah, she's assuming he's going to save both kids.
Yeah.
And not
what if
her?
He can only grab one person and that's it? That's the question he needs to answer.
That reminds me so much of this philosophy class I took in college where it was like we were talking about all this stuff. It was this exact scenario. It was like, okay, basically the question was, it was like, if you're in a sinking boat and you can save like 3 people or just your wife, who would you save?
Oh, yeah.
And people were trying to be like, maybe impressive and be like, you have to save the most lives. And then the teacher was like, wrong. Like basically like Aristotle and Plato, they would say totally fine to save your wife. That's your fucking wife. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, it's like the trolley. It's
all of them.
Yeah. It's the trolley problem, right? It's like,
I don't know.
Yeah. It's like the trolley problem. Do you pull the lever, kill one person, or not pull the lever and the whole train car full of people dies? But then there's constant variations like, yeah, you pull the lever to save everyone, but the person that you're going to kill is like your best friend. You know, like there's a huge difference between do you know them versus do you not, and how that affects our decision making, you know?
Oh, can I tie something real quick as well? I'm almost finished this book called The Once and Future King by T.H. White about King Arthur. Have you either of you read it?
I've heard of it.
Great book. And it's art. Like I've wanted to read it, and I'm almost done with it. And it's like there's really long books, like 700 pages, where there's 4 stories within it, and there's short chapters, so you just kind of keep getting momentum.
Yeah.
And there's one part, there's a knight who at one point there's they're not allowed to hit it, back in the day. If they're your knight, you're not supposed to, you have courtly love with the maidens, you protect them and you flirt and make meaningful eye contact, and that's
Keep
it.
your sword in your sheath.
Yeah. And
It's just butt stuff only,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's a night who these 12 women say, like, this woman says, if you don't like have sex with me, all 12 of us are going to jump off the top of this tower. And he refuses to do it. And he's like, I don't want to break, you doing that is completely your decision. That's fucking crazy. I'm holding true to myself, and I'm not going to do it. And everyone's like, all his other knights are like, dude, just bang her. Like just do it. Are you kidding? Like,
bro, just get in.
You're saving lives, man.
Yeah.
You're saving lives here,
Exactly. And he goes, nope, I'm not going to do it. And then they're like, damn, I mean, all right. And then turns out all the women were fiends, which is like a deity, like a fucking, I don't even know, like almost like ghosts. So it was all,
we
like,
played Dungeons and Dragons. We know.
Yeah, he lost his he would have lost his virginity, and the thing is that comes at the end. If I can spoil some of it,
yes. Is it him? Does he come
really
at the end?
It's not a big spoiler because it's actually it's funny because it's such a big thing, but it's really not a big deal in the book. Is the Holy Grail becomes part of the third story, and the only people who can seek the Grail, then all these different knights get close and they have different adventures and get in trouble or get killed and all this stuff. The 3 of them who make it to the Holy Grail still have their virginity, and the guy, and he wouldn't have been able to see the Grail had he had done that. So it's a really fucking great book.
And
anyway,
because of that, he got to fuck the Grail. So that,
and he did.
Yeah.
Whole hog. But the Once and Future King, really, really good book.
Especially the ending,
Yeah.
Because, at the end, he just gets to the Grail and,
Oh my God, I'm going to puff.
And then that's all over,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we got to the Ask Practical Doug. He's not the asshole. Ta-da-da! We did it.
Huzzah.
That was amazing. All right. This is the part of the show where we open things up for recommendations. So, Matt, obviously you've been talking about some stuff that you've been reading, watching. Heck, even promote some of the stuff that you are doing. What would you like to recommend for people to watch, read, listen to? Anything, what would you recommend to folks?
Oh, man, I got so much.
It doesn't have to be a whole bunch of stuff. It could just be one thing or 2 things, whatever you want. Whatever you think right now people should be checking out.
This is the part where I want to seem cool and pick the coolest thing.
Oh.
I do think my podcast, I'll just throw this out there. The Filmworms podcast. So it's about book. It's like book to film adaptations. We talk about the author, we talk about the filmmaker, and we talk about other works and if the adaptation was faithful or if that matters, etc. That getting some really good positive feedback that's encouraged a lot of people to write or read and watch more interesting stuff. And I feel like our best episode is Inherent Vice. And that's a movie I really like that most people don't. So tying back to our guilty thing or whatever, I'm not embarrassed, but most people don't like that movie. I fucking love that movie. And if you watch Inherent Vice, and if you just watch it and you go, don't worry about understanding the plot. The plot is very, very complicated and convoluted. Just watch it for the performance and the language. You'll really dig it. So I'm going to say watch Inherent Vice.
Okay.
It's a noir film in the 70s. It takes place in Los Angeles, and it's really, really funny. And it's one of my favorite movies. So I'll say Inherent Vice. Maybe check out our podcast. Reading, I would say I would either read the books that are coming to mind are the Once Future King was really good. I would check out All My Friends Are Going to Be Strangers by Larry McMurtry. Really good movie, a book about a writer. It's like a great cautionary tale. It's like a really fucking good book. I would also suggest checking out we haven't done this one yet, but we're going to, is White Noise Wasn't the biggest fan of the film. One of my favorite all-time books. Super hilarious. So that would be my things to recommend.
Dude, that's a great list of stuff.
Yeah.
So cool. Nice. Well, y'all heard it. Fucking follow Matt's advice and check out all those things. Justin, what do you got to recommend?
I think you and I are recommended the same thing today. So do you want to do it on 3?
Yeah.
1,
2, 3. Last of Us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look, I've never played the video game, but I was familiar with the video game. Like I knew of it. I knew some of the basic, story plot or plot points in the story. This show is making me want to go back and talking about adaptations. Now I want to go back and play the game. Like I'm kind of curious to see like how this gameplay is, because I knew when it came out, people were talking about it was kind of pushing boundaries and storytelling and what gameplay was and even like the cinematic cutaways and stuff in the game. So I have thoroughly enjoyed, and this has sent me hard into a Pedro Pascal.
Oh, he's such a good actor.
Jesus
So
Christ!
good.
Like I'm getting deep in Pedro. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Have you seen his performance in Game of Thrones?
Absolutely.
I think about it all the time.
I just went back and watched the death scene before this podcast.
Oh, I can't do that. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't watch that because it makes me so sad. Like,
Die, you haven't confessed.
yeah. Well, that's the thing is like he's had so many great parts. Like in Narcos, he's phenomenal in Narcos.
I'm going to be cracking open Narcos.
Oh my God. Like he's so good in all that stuff. And I mean, I've seen so many clips from sketches in his SNL,
Oh, the Mario Kart thing. That was
so many sketches. He was killing
Mario.
sketch after sketch after sketch. I just keep seeing pop up. I'm like, God, these are fucking great. Like they killed it. He killed it. Yeah.
It was a satisfying episode to watch.
Same thing. Like I didn't play the game. I watched my brother play the opening sequence, which blew my mind and broke my heart. He goes, yeah, that's how the game starts. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm familiar with like what happens at the end of the first game. I know some of the spoilers from the second game and things like that. So it's a very interesting like story. And I feel like, again, without having played the game, like just visually, I think it's wonderful. The acting's phenomenal. There's a lot of heart that goes into this. It gets you emotionally connected. It's one of those things where
can we just, okay.
I mean, you see constant clips of people who just got done watching episode 3 and they're just in absolute tears. And you're like, wow, that's the kind of shit that, these showrunners and these networks just jerk off to. They're like, everyone's talking about it, They're like, yes. You're going to get renewed for a second season after that sort of shit. So yeah, it's still going. Episode 4 is out as the time of recording this, so it's still ongoing for first season. But so far, I'm into it. I get excited to watch it. I kind of like everything being done so I can binge watch it. But I'm watching this every week, being like, all right, new episode's out. Let's check this out. I want to know what's going on.
It's cool to look for. I haven't seen it yet. It's really hard. My wife does not like anything violent.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's
it's
fair.
like, it's not.
No, I mean to a certain extent, because what are we talking?
No, it is fair. I'm really losing credibility because when we first started dating, I was hitting her with like great films that she really loved, like Frances Ha and like The Puffy Chair and like just different, like hitting her with all these quirky rom-coms. And then like I tried watching with her. Well, it's not even that, The Beguiled.
Oh, sorry. What?
Have you seen The Beguiled?
No.
Great movie, 2017, Sofia Coppola, and there's someone who gets a leg amputated.
Okay.
Oh God.
And it really upset my wife Corey. And then 3 weeks ago, we're watching the Banshees of Inisherin.
We've both seen that.
Because I really wanted to watch it, and I have a best friend from growing up who just like doesn't talk to me anymore. And it's really confusing. And I'm like, I need to watch this and maybe I'll get over this. Because I just get like, it's just like, I don't even have like, it's just this thing where he like, I'm texting him and he doesn't respond anymore. But I don't even know if I have the right number. And I'm like, it could be all in my head or he just doesn't want to be my friend anymore. But I'm kind of confident he doesn't want to be my friend anymore. And I don't really know why. I'm like, I'm watching this because I want to try to have some catharsis. And Corey's like, I'll watch it. Is there any amputating? And I'm like, oh, no. And this is a joke. She says it now. And then the whole movie's about this guy cutting off his fingers. And she was like, what the fuck, dude? I'm so sorry. I love it. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
I'll say this. My wife also has She's not as into violence as on-screen violence as such. And she loves The Last of Us. So hopefully, I don't know how aligned they are on that, but hopefully Corey will be able to.
Yeah, I would say as far as how violent some stuff can be, in my opinion, it's on the pretty milder side. You know, I think it's more implied than anything.
Implied violence.
Was The Walking Dead too much for her? Did you guys?
We've never watched that. I think the all that. The gore. I have to say, I'm not as into zombies personally. Is it a zombie thing?
It's an.
You're talking about Last of Us?
I'm asking. I know The Walking Dead's a zombie thing, but is The Last of Us a zombie thing?
It's more about infected people than zombies.
It's apocalypse style sort of thing. I
asked because tonally, violence wise, it's on par with each other. So
got it. Well, the thing is though, she randomly likes certain stuff, and it's usually stuff I've seen that I can maybe be like, oh, maybe turn away. But she did really like Inglourious Bastards, and we watched Game of Thrones, like up to 4 seasons of it, and she was into Game of Thrones. And then Florence was born, and we stopped watching it. Randomly things are okay. It's hard. It's very hard to tell. But other times, it's like literally like it's like I've really fucked up.
Yeah. I would say violence wise in this show, it's not terribly intense. There's some things where I'd be like, nah, don't check that out. This one, it's not gratuitous. It seems, again, a lot. It's not like close up sort of stuff. There's implied destruction and mayhem and stuff like that, but I don't think you really see it a whole lot, at least not yet. So I mean, yeah.
Okay, I definitely want to check it out. I love Pedro Pascal, and
so
it's getting a lot of buzz.
Yeah. Buzz, motherfucker.
Buzz, motherfucker.
All right. So as we close out the show here, first of all, Matt, I feel like we could do this for 4 more hours. This is so much fun.
Yeah, I love talking to you guys.
This is so great. But before we go, I want to do you justice. I want to make sure you get an opportunity to tell everyone where, if you want them to follow you online, check out your website, check out all your stuff. Where can people do that?
I would say go to my website. Go to www.mattspassions.com. I got pretty much all my stuff I've ever made up there that I can rewatch and not cringe horribly. But I got like my feature film, a short film. I was gonna shoot another film before the pandemic. So I got like kind of the proof of concept there. I got 2 short stories, got some scripts, got links to my podcast. I got my rap albums. I got like sketches and shorts. I've got art I've made. I've got random stuff I've appeared in, and then I got a list of my favorite films and novels. So I would say the best place to do that is mattspassions.com.
I love it. That's so good. I also forgot to mention Matt, phenomenal rapper. You should absolutely check out his shit, man. I went to your website. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about this. And I had fun listening to your stuff. So.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. It's fun to make it.
Absolutely. And as far as checking out Mind Gap Podcast, you can follow us on all social medias at Mind Gap Podcast. You can check us live stream at youtube.com/Mind Gap Podcast. That's podcasts on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central. I host a video game stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. Central. We've done some Red Dead Online live streams, which have been very fun, full of content. Look out for some shorts coming out soon of our recent endeavors. It was wild times, where I got to play my character Andy America, everyone's favorite American, and all that other stuff. So check us out live for our live streams. If you're enjoying this stuff on YouTube, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. We surpassed 300 subscribers, and we're climbing, so thank you for all of that. If you're listening to this, please rate and review, all that sort of stuff. We greatly appreciate that. And as always, check out the link in the description for our Discord, for our merch, and for our Patreon. And don't forget to follow Justin online as well.
On Instagram, it's at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. And while you're in the online realm, check us out on all the platforms where you can find and consume quality podcasts. Go ahead and share us around, rate, review, subscribe, all those things we ask you to do every week. And then 2east8th.com and 2east8th on all social media, as well as loveandimprovfilm.com and Love and Improv Film on Instagram.
Nice. Once again, Matt, you're a goddamn treasure. An American treasure, and it's so much fun having you back on here. And let's not wait another 5 years. How about that?
Yeah, and anytime you guys want me on, I'm down to do it. So thanks for having me again. It was great to see you both.
Absolutely, because we're gonna get you back in soon. Don't you worry, because this is just it's too much fun. Too much fun for this short amount of time. So with that being said, I want to say, Justin, thank you.
Real
Douglas,
quick, Doug.
Yeah.
I'm glad we kind of trashed SMS a little bit.
You know what? Me too. I'm glad we just called it out by name because you know what? It deserves it. So
Okay, you can sign off. I just want to get that in there.
no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally cool. With that, I'll say, Justin, thank you.
Douglas, thank you.
Chat, thank you.
Listeners, thank you.
And you all have a dandy fucking week.
Mind Gap Podcast.